Puts me so much trouble, it's not my fault. All this, I also lose my friends, I lost my baby. That is looking crack, only today want to change. He wanted us, so they couldn't try more like to feel. I'd kill the real, take your life in a second. The table drinks coffee in my kitchen, I mentioned. Eating every song, I just wanted to go away. You decide to stay in the well. I want to be forgiven, I don't like this kid for money. Sorry I was scared, you're not the way it feels. Like to sleep with it for someone to come in and kill you. The final thing is that now I'm not afraid of anything. Cause they're gonna kill anyone that feels so powerful. They try to every your skin of everything is confusing. You will be good, but you will be more. You will be good, but you will be more. You will be good, but you will be more. Alone every day, it is a praise of pleasure.
Welcome back to Dynasty 365, where there is no off-season. Today we're going to be going through the Tier 2 wide receivers alphabetically. To get the individual rankings, you'll have to give me a little money. You'll have to go to the patreon.com/365_dynasty and pledge $5 a month. If you don't have $5 a month, I've been there too. Anything would help. I just want to make sure this podcast keeps rolling so that there's a Dynasty resource for players of all skill levels. But that's kind of out of my hands. All I can do is try to provide value every episode. Today we're going to be going through A.J. Brown, Dillon Mitchell, Emmanuel Butler, Greg Dortch, Hakeem Butler, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Mecole Hardman, N'Keal Harry, and Preston Williams. First up is A.J. Brown. He is a 72.5 inch or 6 foot and half an inch receiver out of Ole Miss that weighs 226 pounds with 9.75 inch hands and a 78 inch span. His height is below average for this class, but his weight is far above average and his hand size is slightly above average with an average span. He's on the younger end of receivers in this class at 21.78 years old, coming out as a junior. He has one of the highest weight divided by height scores in this class, an above average span divided by height, and an above average hand size divided by height. Brown did pretty well at the combine, running a 4.4940, which was faster than I expected, and slightly above average. A average 36.5 inch vertical, a below average 120 inch broad jump, an above average 19 reps on the bench, and didn't participate in the 3-cone or the 20-yard shuttle. To be honest, I'm pretty disappointed that he didn't do any of the agility drills, as that was a major concern of mine after watching the film, but we'll get right into that. He was actually the first receiver I scouted this year, so I honestly don't even know the first game that I scouted. I think I just kind of went through a couple games. I apologize for that, but at the time I didn't know I was going to be making a podcast, so cut me a little slack. Runs good routes, doesn't seem overly fast, good hands, more of a possession/slot guy, can break 70-yarders, high production history, broke single season yards record at school, doesn't seem to create separation athletically, average acceleration off the line, good top-end speed, alligator arms when about to receive contact. We've been over alligator arms before, but right, the Florida Gators chant where they have their arms stretched straight out and they're opening and closing them. That's what he does when he's about to get hit. And when you're supposed to be a slot guy at the next level, maybe an outside receiver, probably a little bit of both, but primarily a slot guy, I want to see you make those difficult catches. That's something I definitely did not like seeing with how thick he is and big he is. How can you really be scared to get hit? Good sideline awareness, can recognize the soft spot in the zone, doesn't seem very agile. At the combine, we didn't get a 3-cone and we didn't get a 20-yard shuttle. I haven't seen his pro day numbers yet, but that's a pretty major concern of mine, as I think agility is one of the most important traits to have in the slot, as well as being able to make those tough contested catches. But he does run good routes. He runs tall, Low effort on dummy routes. Dummy route is where instead of blocking, you're told to run a route by the coach just to keep the cornerback's attention. Now, I think that's kind of a dumb move in overall football philosophy, but it is a valid tactic and it can be effective. I'd much rather have someone block or run a dummy route, but then at the end start blocking. Lets the ball into his body. Remember, we don't like body catches here at Dynasty 365. Not a good blocker during the play. Now, A.J. Brown is probably going to have high enough draft capital that he's probably going to be able to play fairly early just from that draft capital. But as a big slot, you definitely need to be able to block. And I believe that's where he projects the most. And I definitely would have liked to see him block a lot better. Drops the ball when hit hard. That's kind of in combination with the alligator arms when about to receive contact. I want to see you show the ability to make that tough catch, especially when you're looking like you might have some separation issues. Probably won't test well. That was kind of a mixed bag. He did run a good 40, but his jumps were below average, and his bench was above average, but not as much as you would think for how thick he is when you look at the weight divided by height. And he also didn't run the agility times, so I'm going to chalk that one up as a win for me. I'll probably have him lower than most. Low effort blocker. Against Vandy, lost the ball on a weak strip attempt. I hate seeing that. When you're projecting as a possession receiver, in my opinion, you need to maintain possession. And when you're already showing some signs that you don't give much effort blocking and your bench wasn't as good as I thought it would be, I want to at least see you be able to hold on to the ball once you do catch it. I'd like to see him make better contested catches, as that's what he's going to have to do in the NFL. He strikes me as a lazy player. I think he's more athlete than football player. I know that's shocking to say about someone with all that production, but for some reason everyone has forgotten about Laquan Treadwell. I'm not sure if that's the same offensive system, but the way they isolate players in that offense, I could see why those production numbers are kind of skewed, especially with DK Metcalf's inability to stay healthy. He might even be a tier 3 player for me. Can make the first guy miss with his back to him. What I'm talking about there is when you're coming back on either a comeback or a hitch or something similar where you're presenting your body towards the quarterback and you have your face towards the line of scrimmage. He does have a great feel for where that defender is closing from and whether he is off balance left or right. And then he gives a nice little head fake to the left and exits right, or vice versa. That's definitely how he made a lot of his big plays, and it's good to see. But I definitely would have liked to see a lot more variation in how he broke the first tackle. Good awareness of where the defenders are on the field. I'd rather have DeMarcus Lodge for the price. We talked about him in the tier 3 wide receivers. Tons of short out routes, bubbles, and hitches. Something that's overlooked a lot as well. I don't think really by film scouts, but by a lot of novice, dynasty, and fantasy players is what type of routes did they run in college? Were they running go routes, and comebacks? That's pretty much all DK Metcalf did, and A.J. Brown had a completely different role. Short out routes, which were like 3 yards, bubbles, hitches, kind of concerns me about his full route tree. Don't think he has the vertical to be a contested catch guy. He had an average vertical at the combine, so that's kind of up in the air. 36.5 inches is pretty good, but remember, he's not even 6'1". Have not watched 2017 yet. I did see A.J. Brown a lot more when scouting DK Metcalf and scouting DeMarcus Lodge, and I honestly didn't see anything that really changed my mind. I saw him make a bunch of easy drops that kind of blew my mind with how highly regarded his hands are in this class, as well as a concerning lack of agility. But we'll have to wait for the pro day to see how that plays out. I know a lot of people are going to be higher on A.J. Brown than I am. I doubt I own him anywhere unless he slips to me at, say, the back end of the first or the top of the second. But right now he's going mid-first and high-first pretty consistently, and that's just a price I'm not willing to pay. I'd much rather trade down and pick up more picks. I feel like I've said this a lot, but this is a year. This is no joke. This is a year. If you're not sold on a player, trade down. And you're not going to get as much value as in normal years, but this class is so deep, especially at wide receiver, almost primarily at wide receiver. But if you're in the market for a wide receiver in the first round, I'd much rather trade down, pick up 2 picks in the second round, and double my odds of hitting. I just see a lot of bust potential with A.J. Brown due to separation issues and hands issues and effort issues that I think a lot of people are just choosing to overlook. And we're moving on to Dillon Mitchell out of Oregon. He is 73.25 inches tall, or barely over 6'1", 197 pounds, 8.625-inch hands with a 74.375-inch span. His height is middle of the pack. His weight, slightly below average. Span size, below average. Hand size, greatly below average. He is a little bit old for this class, coming out at 22.9 years old as a senior. He has a slightly below average weight divided by height, a far below average span divided by height, and a below average hand size divided by height. Mitchell had a worse combine than I expected, but it was still pretty good, running a 4.46 40, which was above average, a 36.5-inch vertical, which was average, a middle-of-the-pack 122-inch broad jump, a below-average 12 reps on the bench, and a slightly below-average 4.29 20-yard shuttle. He did not run the 3-cone. Into the film, against Stanford, nice catch on a comeback. He false steps pretty badly. Looks like he has pretty tremendous athletic ability, acceleration, long speed, and agility. Body catch on both catches so far, though. So the combine for him and the tape do not match up, but the tape makes him look way more athletic than the combine. On tape, this dude can move, change direction, run fast, do pretty much anything you want him to do. Another body catch. So that's 3 straight body catches. When he's got 8.6-inch hands, and a predictor I've seen pretty common is that you want greater than 9-inch hands if you want to be a pass catcher, either as a wide receiver, tight end, or a running back. And now you're body catching already in college. It's pretty concerning to me. He must run good comebacks because he's about 6 yards open on each one. It honestly is insane on film. I don't know how he gets that wide open on a comeback so often, and that's why I'm so surprised at his 20-yard shuttle, because he can decelerate and break very well. Was open again somehow. Open again, made a guy miss. That's the agility and break tackle showing up. That last play was a hands catch, but it was still very close to his body. This is something you'll see with receivers that really don't trust their hand-eye coordination, is they won't body catch it, but their hands are only about 2 inches off of their chest. When, if there's a defensive back close to you, you should really have your arms almost completely extended out in front of you. When your habit is to let it into your body and barely catch it off your chest, some of those balls are going to be a little faster than you think and bounce off. Has above average to elite acceleration, above average to elite long speed, above average to elite agility. Reminds of Dante Pettis. So I'm pretty high on him on film already, but then the combine was pretty lackluster. We didn't see elite acceleration, we didn't see elite long speed, and we didn't see elite agility. But again, remember, the athletic numbers, 1, aren't as accurate as everyone thinks they are, and 2, there's a lot of people who just can't properly motivate themselves. I'm one of them, to go run a 40-yard dash. They're much better football players than athletes, and those are the type of players I like to target because they fall in rookie drafts. Great job sitting down in the soft spot between the safeties and the linebackers and adjusting to a poorly thrown ball. He's open every single play, catch on a hitch. Great deceleration ability. Looks to make guys miss immediately after the catch. I made this note because of his reaction time. He seems like he's quick as a cat out there, just instantly turning, changing direction. You can tell his brain is moving 1,000,000 miles an hour, which I like. Body catch, almost dropped it. He looked upfield before securing the catch, and then we're seeing where that cat-like mentality can hurt you sometimes because you look upfield before you catch the ball. Horrible block, horrible effort. He cannot block at all. He has not dropped a single pass yet. So he is body catching, but he is still catching them. So sometimes you have to take the good with the bad and just say, okay, well, maybe he'll never catch him with his hands, but if he can catch him with his body, a catch is still a catch, even if it doesn't look pretty. But that definitely reduces his catch radius pretty significantly. He should work back to the quarterback more on the comeback routes, but he's so fast that he's wide open. Great job to find the soft spot in the zone and then make 3 tacklers miss to score the touchdown. Unreal play. That's twice so far we've seen him find the soft spot in the zone, and twice so far we've seen him make people miss with agility. He was dragging number 97 for 4 yards. You really should go watch that play on film. It's a pretty disgusting play. Made a high point hands catch on the sidelines in a contested situation. That is something I love to see when I'm concerned about his hands and his body catching. And now he makes a high point hands catch close to the sidelines while it's contested. So we're seeing 4 great traits on one play. High pointing the ball, using his hands, which he hasn't shown yet, sideline awareness, and the ability to catch in contact. His agility is probably elite. No one can even put a hand on him in the flat with 2 tacklers. I'm very surprised at the combine. I think Dillon Mitchell is going to get slept on because of that combine, and I'm loving it. Was interfered with on a deep shot for a touchdown. Got a little sticky on physicality. Couldn't make the contested deep slant in the end zone. Then we see him drop a contested ball. But he is a pretty slender person, so it's not something that surprises me at all. It was just good to see him make one earlier just to know it is possible. Needs to be shallower in that situation and shield the defender from the football. So by shallower, I mean he was running more towards the back of the end zone than he was the sideline. And if he would have ran towards the sideline, he would have been completely uncontested on the catch. And shielding the football, I think we've talked about it multiple times. He's got to get his body in between that defender and where the ball's going to land. He let him just run straight at the ball, which is why he didn't catch it. Didn't have the strength to push off, late finding the ball, but it was still probably interference by the defensive back. It's a good sign they target him 3 straight times in double overtime in the red zone. That's a very underrated part of watching film as well, is how much does this coach trust him? Well, with the game on the line, 3 times in a row in double overtime, they threw it to Dillon Mitchell. And he was open on the next play. He gets separation with athleticism easily. So then he won the game for them. On the 4th play in a row, they targeted him in double overtime. Next game was Michigan State. His first dropped pass, a difficult sliding catch, probably a body catch drop, hard to see. Nice corner route was held, definitely needs to gain strength in the NFL. His bench wasn't horrible, but he definitely is a little bit too weak and a little bit too light for his size right now. Nice inside release and explosion in and out of his breaks. Good vision and falling forward when running after the catch on screens. Also shows hands catching on the screens. Not only is he good at running routes and exploding in and out of his breaks, but once he gets the ball in his hands, he has good vision of the field and falls forward for extra yards. Nice finesse outside release. Should have fought back into the defender to draw the pass interference or get the ball at his highest point. Instead, he tried to shoulder catch it and the defender knocked it away. Actually, what he did, and this is on the next note, is he tried to catch it with his body and it bounced off the top of his helmet. That's why you don't body catch. That's why you need to learn how to shield the defender and know when to high point or when to just allow the defender to interfere with you. Has absolutely zero clue what he's doing as a blocker. Great short out route, great head fake, great plant step, great explosion. Dropped the easiest deep ball you'll ever see in your life because of his issues with hands catching, but it was a great route. So we're getting some Darius Slayton vibes, right? He's running great routes, he's got good athletic traits, but he's dropping the ball when it does hit his hands. Has hard hands. Good head fakes left and right while working vertically without wasting movement. We've talked about this before, but I know a lot of people don't really understand this concept or know about it. But when you're running a fly route or a vertical route and the defender is still farther away from the line of scrimmage than you, one way to get leverage is to have subtle left and right movements to try to fool him into thinking, oh, he's going to run a post or a corner. And you can sometimes get him turned around or at least slow him up so that you can beat him with speed on the fly route. And the without wasting movement part is the key aspect of that. You can move left and right, but if you're not still working upfield and accelerating, it's pretty much pointless because that defender's still going to have time to recover if you're not moving at full speed. He's good at those hitch routes, but he body catches it every single time. Poorly timed jump on the ball. He should have drawn a pass interference penalty instead. Poor slant route, lazy, didn't shield the defender from the football with his body, also was trying to body catch again. His first good block, stock block at the edge on a bubble screen. He showed nice physical swim move to knock the DB down on a slant the play before. So he got pissed for some reason it looks like, and 2 plays in a row he's shown physicality both on his release the play before and now on this block on the play side. Nice hands catch on a contested slant on third down at the sticks on a high catch. Good to see a hands catch and a contested situation with him. And it's important to me that it was on third down and near the yard marker. Makes me believe he has the ability to grow into this type of player. But right now he's only doing it in clutch moments. He hasn't learned consistency or work ethic yet. Nice adjustment to an underthrown ball. Another body catch. He does show hand catches on bubbles. I don't get why he doesn't the rest of the time. Nice route, but he needs to learn how to cut across the field more to get open. He had him beat and let him get back in on the play. He did this earlier as well. He doesn't quite understand the route concepts or how to completely prevent a defender from getting back in on the play once he's open deep. He runs towards the end zone instead of continuing to gain left and right / east-west separation by just continuing to run the direction he's already going. He changed direction to go upfield, which made it a longer throw for the quarterback, a more difficult throw for the quarterback, and it slowed him down enough for the defender, who's now running full speed because he just got beat, to get back in and break up that play. Against California, 2 hands catches in a row, one of them in traffic, but he still needs to come back to the quarterback. Dropped the ball on the right sideline. Great inside release and speed, but another body catch. Last game was against Arizona State. Nice block on the right sideline. Nice hands catch on a post / slant. Great contested catch on a fade to the right side. High point hands catch. Definitely has some problems when people are physical with him. Nice comeback. Dillon Mitchell is such a mixed bag. There are times he looks like a surefire first-round receiver, and there are other times where he looks like an undrafted receiver. He's got a very wide range of issues and positive traits. I was listening to Matt Waldman podcast the other day, and he said he had heard reports that Dillon Mitchell didn't have a high work ethic, which kind of makes sense from watching the film. But if he develops that work ethic, he's got a very high ceiling. If he can get a little stronger and bigger and work on his hands and understand some of the more nuanced parts of playing the ball and how to play the ball and when to play the ball, he's got some juice to him for sure. I love that he did bad at the combine. I honestly do, because that's going to make him a better value in rookie drafts. He's definitely not going to see much action right away unless they use him in specialty scenarios because of his blocking and just kind of mental issues and hands issues right now. He could probably be a returner. I'm not sure if he returned in college, but he can move. So he's more of a developmental player to me, but his upside is extremely high in my opinion. Next up is Emmanuel Butler out of Northern Arizona. He is 75.125 inches tall, or barely over 6'3", 227 pounds, with 10.75 inch hands and a 79.25 inch span. His height is slightly above average, weight greatly above average, hand size greatly above average, and his span size is slightly above average. He's coming out at a below average 22.62 years old as a senior. He has an above average weight divided by height, a slightly above average span divided by height, and a greatly above average hand size divided by height. He did not run the 40 at the combine, but he had an average 36-inch vertical, below average 115-inch broad jump, slightly below average 11 reps on the bench, didn't participate in the 3-cone drill, and ran an average 4.22 second 20-yard shuttle. There is limited film of Emmanuel Butler, but clearly I liked what I saw if he's in my tier 2. Against Eastern Washington in 2016, looks somewhat slow and unathletic, can high point the ball in contested catches, nice inside release, but clearly does not have long speed, probably not acceleration either. We saw him not run the 40 time, so that's possible, as well as the 3-cone drill, but he did run a pretty decent 20-yard shuttle. Did look surprisingly agile on that last play. Another nice high point over a defender on the left sideline. Can definitely high point contested catches, has problems with press man. We like to see high points, we like to see contested catches, we don't like seeing problems with press man, but keep in mind this was 2016, which is over 2 years ago. Showed nice physicality getting off the press on a fade in the end zone, but he was double covered and they still threw it to him. The dude picked it off and Butler ran him down. Nice to see that hustle. That is definitely my favorite play I've seen from him. He pretty much got tackled by one guy. There was another safety over the top. I believe it was 4th down or 3rd down, something crazy like that, and they still threw it to him, double covered, and the safety picked it off while the corner pretty much tackled him. Butler got up and ran him down about 40 yards downfield. And that's something I love to see. I love to see that attitude. I love to see that anger. Just all around, loved that play. It showed how much they trust him, showed how good he really must be for that division, for them to still think they have a win when he's double covered on a critical down. Excellent ball tracking on jump balls. Definitely gives effort blocking, but I don't think he's very good at it. He seems to have pretty good hands, possibly great hands. That was his only game film on YouTube. So next I looked for some NAU highlights. Looks far more athletic in this film. I know it's a highlight, but he's showing great hands and great ball tracking. Shows the ability to adjust and track a poorly thrown low ball from left to right across the back of the end zone. When someone is tall and big like him, and earlier we had concerns about his speed and acceleration, usually those players aren't very good at bending to catch balls, but that was a great catch. Shows much improved long speed. Would have a spectacular catch rating of 99 in Madden, so that's pretty high praise. I love my contested catches. He's big. I know he played in a smaller school, and trust me, I wish there was more film. The fact he's all the way up here in my tier 2 with how little film there is tells you just how much I liked what I saw, but it is one of those things where I could be completely wrong because I don't have the film to analyze. I'm hoping next year I can find some way. I'm sure there's a way to pay money to get film. I haven't looked into it yet, but just over the last year, the amount of film they cut back on YouTube is astounding to me. Showed awareness to get the ball into the end zone on a contested catch at the 2-yard line, left sideline. Seems like a high football IQ player. I love high football IQ players. I believe they transition much faster and are going to give you a faster return on your investment. Many people look at physical traits a lot more than mental traits, and I know I get down on players sometimes over things that you might not think are really all that important, but I believe they show your mental attitude and your internal makeup. Can make the catch through contact. I love to see that out of him. So he's got agility, he's got good to great hands, he has high football IQ, and he has a ridiculous catch rating. I like to see that in a body this big, and I truly believe that when people go and play at a lower level, they come out with so much more actual in-game experience that they adjust much faster. They're also going to be devalued in rookie drafts because they went to a small school. I love the small school bias as long as the film and the metrics aren't horrible. I was craving more Emmanuel Butler, so I watched Matt Waldman's Boiler Room on him. Great body control to adjust on poorly thrown balls. Shows great sideline awareness. That's just knowing where you are in the field and being able to get your feet in bounds. I mean, look at Doug Baldwin. If you want to see the most sideline aware player maybe in history, it's Doug Baldwin, in my opinion. But that's just one part of overall football IQ, in my opinion. Shows good balance through contact. You know I love my contact balance. We've been over this. And when he has that agility, those hands, and contact balance, I'm starting to really not care that he's from a small school. Can make one-handed catches. Well, when your hands are the same size as Hakeem Butler's, but you actually have good hands, unlike Hakeem Butler. Hashtag spoiler alert. I like it. Doesn't seem to get much separation with his routes, but he was probably the focal point of every single team he played for years in this division. Emmanuel Butler is one of my favorite players in this class. Maybe I'm biased by the highlight film because there was only one game, but man, I just loved the difference in overall athleticism I saw in 2016 until looking at his highlight films. He just looked like a completely different player, but he still had those hands. He had that agility. He shows that high football IQ, that high effort, that high motor. If I had to pick one steal of the draft out of every single wide receiver based on where I think they're going to end up going in rookie drafts, it's Emmanuel Butler. A small school, didn't run the 40, didn't have a good combine, doesn't have much film available on YouTube, but man, you get that feeling sometimes, oh yeah, this guy's going to have no problem in the NFL. That's how I feel about Emmanuel Butler. Honestly, the only reason he's in my tier 2 is because there's not enough film and he's from a smaller school and he didn't run the 40, so there's just too much uncertainty for me. But he's going to be going late in rookie drafts and he's someone I'm going to be taking probably in every single league. Next up, we've got Greg Dortch out of Wake Forest. He is the shortest player in the class at 67.125 inches, 173 pounds, 8.875 hands, with a 71-inch span. His weight and span numbers are below average. His hand size is slightly below average. He is the youngest player in the class at 20.86 years old, coming out as a redshirt sophomore. He is a below average weight divided by height, an above average span divided by height, and an above average hand size divided by height. He was injured at the combine, so didn't participate, and he ran a 4.4940 at his pro day. He reportedly ran good times on the 3-cone and 20-yard shuttle, but I couldn't find those anywhere. Against Boston College, great contested catch on a slant. Already looks like a natural catcher of the football after one play. Can make tough catch in double coverage. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. He looks super durable. So, it is crazy how good he is at contested catches, especially for being 5'7", but he has had some injury issues already. I believe he missed almost an entire season with an ab injury in 2017, but during that game, he scored 4 touchdowns and also kept playing the rest of the game after suffering that ab injury. He does look pretty small, but strong for his size. Their big DBs seemed to overpower him, but he was still blocking. He does give a lot of effort blocking. Doesn't really like to block at the point of attack. Was just getting chippy on the block the play before. He was probably tired and took a play off. So I do like seeing that he likes to get chippy with the other team. Hopefully not too much to where he gets penalties. But it is concerning that he took a play off the next time. He has conditioning issues or mentality issues. I don't think he's very fast either. I'm pretty sure I rectified that statement, but I was pretty disappointed with a 4.4940 based on what I saw on film, but he could just be one of those players that's faster in pads. Good physicality and toughness throughout the route to not get knocked off his path and separate with physicality and hand fighting. So we've got a 5'7", 170-pound receiver who is out-physicaling defensive backs in hand fighting. Compare this to a lot of the bigger receivers in this class who seem to get knocked off their intended route quite often. Just dropped a tough fade over the shoulder. It was a tough catch, but he should have made it. The contact threw him off too much. I think he might be too little for the NFL. Most people are going to agree with that statement. 5'7" is pretty small for a wide receiver in the NFL, but for some reason people think 5'7" Kyler Murray can do it at quarterback. And don't give me any bullshit about 5'10". His running back was 5'10" or 5'11", and Kyler Murray is at least 3 inches shorter. I mean, there's no way he's 5'10". That's all I'm saying. He's closer to 5'7" than 5'10", I'd bet my life on it. But anyways, off topic. That's a later episode, I'm sure. I don't know if he can separate with athleticism. I'm pretty sure I redacted that statement later as well. Can find the soft spot in the zone and come back to the quarterback to present an easy target. Just displayed great ball tracking and effort on deep balls. Just dropped a short and contested box out drill to a linebacker. Not a good sign if he wants to play in the slot. So although he's showing the ability to make some pretty ridiculous contested catches, I mean, clearly no one in their right mind is going to ask a 170-pound receiver to be boxing out linebackers. But at Wake Forest, he was by far their best weapon. So they kind of used him in every single way you could imagine using a wide receiver. And most of the time he excelled at it. He rounds a short out route. Remember, rounding a route is where you don't break out at 90 degrees exactly. You're kind of cheating and turning over 2 or 3 steps instead of one hard plant. He does have great hands. As a returner, he has great vision with great hands. His plants are freaking crazy. He destroyed the competition like they just simply weren't fast enough to catch him. He's going to get yards after the catch. Can make one-handed catches. Something that's overlooked with Greg Dortch, and why I probably have him a lot higher than most, is his hands are almost 9 inches, which is about the threshold for what you want in a wide receiver. And that's honestly pretty crazy to have almost 9-inch hands at 5'7". The dude can freaking catch with his hands like unreal. And on that last one, I'm talking about a one-handed catch. Again, he's quick. Great balance and body control, natural, undeniable athlete. So at first I wasn't thinking he was very fast. You know how I start off assuming every player sucks. But after a while it was just undeniable that he's pretty much, I don't know why I get the comparison. Maybe it's because he was wearing number 3. But Allen Iverson popped into my head. I know it's a different sport, but I can't help what my brain thinks sometimes. If he gets a step on someone, he sure can accelerate. It's pretty elite, possibly. Can make contested catches on the sidelines, so that's showing both an ability to make a contested catch in traffic and while also having the sideline awareness to keep his feet in bounds. can create space out of nothing with his agility. I really wish I had his agility times because I bet they'd be pretty insane. But as we've talked about before, I want to limit the amount of uncertainty I have with my draft picks. So unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to push him down my board a little bit, but I really don't want to. I mean, I know he's small. I know he doesn't fit any of the typical boxes you want to see, but I just love the way he plays. I loved watching his film. I love his agility, and I think we've seen with Tariq Cohen and Tyreek Hill and some other players that if you have elite agility, some of your other stuff doesn't really matter. He's definitely going to have to get a quarterback that can hit him, though, because he is a small target. He can catch balls before they hit the ground better than anyone I've ever seen in my life. So I'm not one to hyperbolize very often. I do naturally, I think, but I really try not to when I'm making a decision that's going to impact my dynasty team for 5 to 10 years. But right after I'm saying that he might need a good quarterback that's accurate, he really does have a ridiculous catch radius. He's like a little mini Steve Smith clone, even wore number 89. So I must have went back to his redshirt freshman year at a certain point. His redshirt freshman year, honestly, was better than his redshirt sophomore year. So you can kind of interpret that two different ways. You could think he got pretty high and mighty after a really successful redshirt freshman year and kind of coasted off the pedal. You could also say, well, now the secret was out about him and everyone knew who he was. And he also was definitely thicker as a redshirt sophomore. He's just too fast and quick for most people one-on-one, Tariq Cohen or Tyreek Hill-esque. So I was just talking about those two players specifically off of memory, and turns out I mentioned them in my notes as well. So far I've compared him to Allen Iverson, Steve Smith, Tariq Cohen, and Tyreek Hill. And because I don't have combine numbers or pro day agility numbers, I'm probably going to have to knock him down farther than I want to, which is upsetting, but the odds do say that he probably won't pan out. But man, I love his film. His open field running is amazing. The next tape I watched was his highlights against NC State. He has possibly elite speed, possibly elite acceleration, and possibly elite open field running, and possibly elite hands all in one package. He's just little. This guy could be a sleeper and a half. Landing spot dependent. So Greg Dortch, honestly, is a complete receiver. He's got everything I look for. Great hands, not perfect route running, but pretty darn good route running. Shows a mix of physicality and finesse in his releases and throughout his routes to get open. Always fights for the football. Has great ball tracking, great hands, at a minimum above average speed, and most likely elite agility and acceleration. I'd be shocked if his 3-cone times and 20-yard shuttle weren't among the best in the class. He does have a little bit of a worrisome injury history. He is pretty slender, even for being thicker and shorter than Marquise Brown. I really like that he's not even 21 years old and he's the youngest in the class out of all the receivers. But I have seen his name brought up quite a bit. I get it because the people who watch film are going to see that he's got multiple near elite traits and you just have to get over his height, which is hard to do, but he's just such a mismatch that I definitely want him on my team. I just still haven't quite decided if I'm willing to overlook his height and his injury issues. But man, just talk about a fun player to watch. And that's Greg Dortch. I'd bet he was the most agile player in the entire country in college football as a redshirt freshman. He looked a little less explosive as a redshirt sophomore, which is kind of concerning to me because he could have just been taking some time off, taking some mental reps off, but he definitely came back bigger. So I really don't know. I mean, clearly, I think highly of him to have him in my tier 2 with a lot of these names that are going in the top half of rookie drafts right now. And some team is going to get one hell of a kick and punt returner at the very least. And next is Hakeem Butler from Iowa State. He is 77.375 inches tall, or about 6'5.5", 227 pounds, with 10.75-inch hands and an 83.875-inch wingspan. His age is middle of the class at 22.9 years old, coming out as a redshirt junior. He has a slightly above average weight divided by height, above average span divided by height, and above average hand size divided by height. He definitely had a good combine for his height and weight, running a 4.48 40, which was middle of the pack, an average 36 vertical jump, an above average 128-inch broad jump, and an above average 18 reps on the bench. The first game watched was against Texas. He looks pretty slow. Had no clue who to block, and then shows zero effort trying to block. Great stop on the hitch, but then body caught. Seems lazy to me, or he's just lost on a scramble drill. So a scramble drill, right, is when the quarterback is flushed from the pocket due to pressure, and the receiver has a certain set of rules that he should follow, like going to the side of the quarterback, finding the soft spot in between people, and coming back to the quarterback to give a better target, and he just stood there, essentially. Just had a decent block when the ball was coming his way, but telegraphed it. Did a great job adjusting to the ball on a sideline go route and had great awareness to keep one toe in bound, but again he body caught. Another similar play with worse coverage, but again he body caught. So that's 3 body catches so far and no effort blocking or awareness of how to block really. And when he is going to block, you can tell pretty much immediately from the snap. You can tell in half a second if he's going to block or run a route. I swear, either my brain can read faster than I think before my brain consciously realizes it, or something, because I feel like I do that a lot. I think he runs good but not great routes. He loads up off the start instead of already being in position, but that's teachable. Just showed the ability to beat press man with a finesse release instead of physicality, which is a good sign with how big he is. Just ran a good square in, but it could have been more crisp. He does show the ability to separate with routes at times, but I don't think he's separated with athleticism yet, besides the one play where he beat press man. He just really is not good at blocking. He's not moving side to side. He's not locking up. Very similar to N'Keal Harry, except with slightly more effort. Just showed a nice hands catch while running back to the QB, so he can catch with his hands. That is good, and it's a good sign that he's running back to the quarterback. I have real concerns about his acceleration. I have real concerns about his top speed. So his top speed looks like it was probably somewhat taken care of by running a 4.48 40, but the acceleration I still don't know because we didn't see a 3-cone or a 20-yard shuttle at the combine. I don't know if he will be more than a jump ball guy. Just showed some physicality getting off of press man. He just seems like he takes too long to get to where his route needs to end up. Just rounded an out route and telegraphed it. By telegraphing it, I mean if I was a defensive back, I would have jumped the route because he's telling me where he's going with his body lean and lack of head fakes, all that stuff. Just had a nice block showing power to push the defender backwards, but then let go for some reason. He did understand where the ball carrier was going afterwards, though. So it is good to see that he does have this strength to push people off, which at 230 pounds I would hope. And his bench was above average, which is fairly impressive considering how long his arms are. But he really doesn't have that good of form blocking right now. That is coachable, but it is also nice to see a little bit of football IQ, knowing where the ball carrier is going to be. Just made a nice contested catch on a go route right side, but his arms could have been farther in front of him. He does show good to great sideline awareness. Displays a physical arm chop to get hands off of him downfield in the route. That's another thing that's good to see is that while he's running the route, he will use an arm chop, which remember is essentially put your hand in front of your mouth and you chop that whole thing down in one solid motion at preferably his wrist to break his hold on you. Just dropped a wide open high hands catch. That's a theme I think we're going to start seeing pretty soon. Is going to have to win with physicality and routes in the NFL. He shows the physicality sometimes, but I'd like to see more with the routes. He does display the ability to work multiple directions while trying to get vertical with physicality. So I've talked about this multiple times before, but when you're running a go route, you don't just run in a straight line. That's what Emmanuel Hall does, and that's a big reason why he always gets pushed around by the defensive back, because they're never scared of him crossing their face. So it was good to see him push a little and either fake or try to decide to cross their face while he's still running vertical. Did not adjust well to a ball thrown low and behind him. Average to below average acceleration, average long speed. So in this game we saw him body catch a lot. We did see some nice things with his routes. Most of the time he wasn't giving very much effort blocking, but at times he did. He seemed lost in a couple of ways when it comes to football intelligence, but he did have good sideline awareness. Iowa. He rounds a lot of his routes. I worry about his true agility, and we get no agility drills at the combine. Not willing to throw his body in order to make a block. That's something I don't like to see when you are 6'5.5" and 230 pounds. False stepped and couldn't get off press man in the red zone fast enough. He gets worse at catching the farther his arms are away from his body. Not good. This is the biggest flaw with Hakeem Butler, in my opinion, and I feel like no one's talking about it. The dude drops a lot of balls, and he drops those balls the farther his hands are away from his frame. That's not a good sign, in my opinion. It's possible to work on your hands, but when I'm seeing Hakeem Butler be the #1 player Matt Waldman's ever scouted, and I respect Matt Waldman, I heard him say that, and I went back and watched the film and came to the same conclusion, but I like receivers that can catch, especially if we're going to use a first-round draft pick on him. He rounds a lot of routes. Seems like he's running in molasses this game. He loves letting the ball get into his body. It's his preferred method of catching. So when you've got an 84-inch wingspan and you won't extend your arms, you're completely taking away this huge advantage you have physically on every single defensive back you're ever going to face. That is something he has to do in the NFL if he's going to be as productive as a lot of people think he will be. On a stick route, it took forever, and the defender jumped the route. So I was watching the Boiler Room episode by Matt Waldman on Butler, and he used this exact play as evidence that Hakeem Butler has great agility, and I honestly was shocked. He was slow as fuck on this play. The defender wasn't fooled at all. The defender jumped the route. I would never have Hakeem Butler run a stick route ever again. So that was something, as soon as I saw that, I was like, what? No way. So I went back to the film and watched more, and I came to the same conclusion. But that was just something I was pretty surprised was used as evidence that he's super athletic. Just because you attempt a route doesn't mean you're good at it. And the defender wasn't fooled at all. I place much more emphasis on did you win that play than did you look athletic running a stick route, because that DB had zero fear. He short arms it way too much. Another ball, letting it get into his body. Just showed the ability to find a soft spot in the zone. I do like to see that. I hear that he hasn't played football for that long, so it's good to see that he does know where to go in a zone coverage and that he can even read that it's a zone coverage. Oklahoma has way better technique when facing press man than off man. He has serious hands issues, especially away from his body. Horrible blocker with no effort. He can run through arm tackles, but again caught it with his body. Has average to maybe above average long speed, but again caught it with his body. So I did change my initial guess to above average long speed, which I think a 4.48 would show, but we don't have those agility numbers. And he is catching with his body all the time, because when it's thrown to his hands, he normally drops it. And I don't know why this isn't being talked about more, but if you got him as your 1.1 as a wide receiver, I think you have the wrong criteria on what you should want in a wide receiver. He has great sideline awareness, but he always lets it into his body. Really bad hands catches. West Virginia made a few hands catches that were a little bit better. Washington State dropped an easy hands catch, made a hands catch, then he failed to box out a 5'9" corner. I remember that play. That was pretty surprising to me. So boxing out, right, just like in basketball, it's pretty much the same concept as shielding the defender with your body from the ball. But when you're 6'5", over 6'5", and you can't box out a 5'9" cornerback, that just makes me question how well you really understand that concept, other than, oh, I'm just going to try to jump higher than this guy and hope it hits my body. Made an amazing one-handed catch, then he dropped a one-handed catch later. Overall, very inconsistent. Kansas State. More of the same, a few nice contested catches. Kansas had the long speed to outrace both safeties for Kansas, but I'm not sure how qualitative that is since it's Kansas. So Hakeem Butler for me is someone I am not willing to project as high as everyone else is, because he simply cannot catch unless it's a ridiculous play or thrown to his body. If you could hit him in the body, he'd probably catch everything. But that's not how it's going to be in the NFL. He's going to have a tough sledding when the level of physicality is raised, in my opinion. And I have a pretty strong feeling that he's not very agile at all. So he's going to have to win with long speed, routes, physicality, and hands catches, and right now he can't hands catch. So he is much more of a projection for me than everyone else seems to think he is. He's also almost 23 years old. He will be by the start of the season, which isn't super old, but that's still older than you'd like for someone that's apparently virtually guaranteed to grow better hands. I don't even really agree with the statement that he has the most upside in this class, because DK Metcalf is honestly a freak of nature, and everyone's all freaked out about his agility times, times, and no one seems to be about Hakeem Butler. Everyone's upset about DK Metcalf's dropping passes, but he dropped far less than Hakeem Butler in the hands. It's not even close. Hakeem Butler has some of the worst hands in this class. Darius Slayton's are probably worse, but not by much. He's a receiver that I'd probably take in the second round, but he's just way too risky for me to ever spend a first-round pick on. Like, I don't care if it's the end of the first round versus the beginning of the second. Maybe I'd think about him in that range, but I know he's going to go way higher because people like to project out things that don't exist on film currently, and I'm not comfortable taking someone who's this bad at catching, regardless of how big, tall, and fast he is. When I don't know agility times, he doesn't block very well or show effort blocking. He clearly is lost in a lot of football knowledge areas right now and technique areas. He does some nice things, and I'm sure I sound overly negative, but I've seen him projected way higher than I ever thought he would be, and I just can't pay that price. I can't risk having a dud on my team in the first round of a rookie draft, so I doubt I own any shares of Hakeem Butler. On to JJ Arcega-Whiteside out of Stanford. He is 74 inches tall, or 6'2", 225 pounds, 9.5-inch hands, 79.875-inch wingspan. His height and hand size are both middle of the pack. His weight is highly above average, and his span is slightly above average. He is slightly on the young side in this class at 22.28 years old, coming out as a senior. He has above average weight divided by height, above average span divided by height, and an average hand size divided by height. J-Jaw did not participate in any drills at the combine, which is very concerning to me. He did end up running a 4.49 40-yard dash at his pro day, which is one of the more unbelievable things I think I've ever seen in my entire life. He does have decent speed, but a 4.49 I really did not expect. Based on the film, which we're about to get into, I'd almost throw that result out, which is harsh, but let's just go back through the film. Against Washington State, missed an off-balance outside catch because I think he was too worried about the sideline, possible field awareness issues. Takes a false step on his release. Looks to have average acceleration and average speed. Just made a ridiculous triple clutch contested catch. I just messed that up about 5 or 6 times in a row. Apparently triple clutch contested catch is a pretty good tongue twister. I know that's clutch information that you guys need for your dynasty drafts. Does not throttle down and break back to the quarterback. I think he has athleticism issues. Great box out and ball tracking and hand catch in the end zone, but has zero separation. So throttling down is just decelerating by chopping your feet quickly. And we know that breaking back to the quarterback is very important to make sure the defender can't get his hand in there. Boxing out is just like a rebound in basketball, right? You're trying to put your hip on that defender and out-muscle him so that he can't get any hand on the flight path of the football. Is a willing blocker and understands the ball carrier's path, so that's some high football IQ and effort we're seeing. Rounded his out route. I do think he has athleticism issues. I think I've said that 3 times already in about 7 notes. He is a hands catcher, showed a little wiggle and good spatial awareness of where the defenders were. A little wiggle just means side-to-side juke moves, like I don't really know what to equate it to. A head fake or a crossover in basketball, that's a wiggle. Did a great job on a short slant, really sold the upfield attack, a really good timing route and play. Route running is about acting, and there's a lot of people that just aren't very good actors, I've learned, after how much film I've watched of receivers and tight ends and football players in general. But Arcega-Whiteside really does sell his routes well, for the most part. Tried to shield the defender from the ball, but simply couldn't. I think his arms may be a little short for his play style. He had a slightly above average wingspan, so I don't think that's a huge concern. What I do think is a concern is that he's only 6'2", which is prototypical wide receiver height, but when you're a contested catch specialist, for the most part, it'd be a lot better if you were taller, but he is a contested catch specialist, as we'll see soon. He did run a really nice fake out, fake up, fake in, short slant with crisp feet. So that is a lot of steps for a short route. This is where the advanced route running comes in. So he faked the out, right? He went up a couple yards, went out towards the sideline at 90 degrees-ish. Then he broke upfield at another 90 degrees. Then he faked an in route going 90 degrees inside. And then he broke that at a 45-degree angle towards the middle of the field. So that is a very complicated route, but that is taking a ridiculous number of steps in different directions for a route that only ends up 8 yards away from the line of scrimmage at the catch point. Against Oregon, finesse fake out where he torches number 15, but I don't think number 15 is very good. He did have the adequate speed to stay open, however. That's where we're seeing the 40 time. He does have average to maybe above average top end speed, which I kind of doubt still, to be honest. I do think he's an athlete in certain ways, but not in enough areas, in my opinion. Speed probably average. I do not think he will test well. He did avoid every single test at the combine. The best experiment for athletic measurables, and even the best experiment, is still highly flawed. And this is coming from someone who is a lover of science and mathematics and experimental design, and has had multiple jobs where I got paid money to run experiments, do predictive analytics, etc. Great stutter in and go on number 15, where last time he beat him with a fake out and go, but both were in soft press man. So he wasn't getting jammed at the line of scrimmage, but it's really good to see that he's varying up his routes and his fakes. Beats him with a fake out and go upfield. So if he runs a fake out and go again, he has the intelligence to know he's probably going to guess that. So he's going to switch it up to a fake in and go, which that corner hasn't seen yet, and he bid on it. I think he has to win with routes. I don't think he can separate with athleticism. I think he's a good to great route runner. Was still competing in the fourth quarter, a good sign. I do love players that don't take their foot off the pedal when they're either up by a lot or when they're down by a lot in the fourth quarter. That shows good conditioning, a good mental attitude, a desire to compete. There's way more prospects than I would have ever thought before I started doing all this scouting that really get depressed and have emotional issues whenever they're either down or up by a lot. They either get too high and mighty when they're up and start taking plays off, or they get really discouraged when they're down. And if you want to win, I think we've talked about before, every single play matters. Even if you're not going to win the game, you can still get better, and that's a great mentality to have, and a lot of these receivers don't have that trait. JJ does. Against Notre Dame, bad drop on a deep slant, was scared of the hit, I think. Great release, great snag on a contested quick slant. Great to see that he can make good hands catches in contested scenarios, but it is concerning that he had a great release and ran a great route, and he still couldn't get separation on a slant. Great hands catch coming back on a comeback, but I would like to see him drive back towards the ball more. That's the second time we've brought that up. That's a pretty easy coaching point to fix at the next level, based on the other displays of football intelligence he's shown. Really good at drawing defensive pass interference, but you don't get fantasy points for those. I honestly, truly believe that you should get points for drawing pass interference and holding. I believe that shows that you're a better player than the defender you're going against, which in my opinion is the point of fantasy. And while I don't think you should get total credit for the yards that could have been gained on that play, I think you should get, like, at worst, 1 PPR point, say. I don't know of any fantasy sites that have this as a setting, but if there is one, let me know, because I'm going to create a league on there. It worries me that his best attribute is boxing out in the red zone when he's only 6'2" and seems to have athletic issues. But if he's actually 220 pounds, that's pretty impressive, but he doesn't look as strong as 222 pounds. He actually came in at the combine at 225, which is even heavier, and that is a good sign, especially for his play style. I do think he's going to be a red zone target on whatever team he is. Based on how unpredictable red zone touchdowns are, I think he's going to be a pretty boomer bust player, but I do think there's a place and a role for him on a team in the league, especially if he can get better on his agility and his cuts, which I don't know if he can, to be dead honest. Agility and acceleration are definitely the worst parts of his game, but him running a 4.49 was pretty impressive. I just wish it was at the combine and not at a pro day so that I could actually trust the time. I don't think I'm going to be all too interested in him. Their offensive line sucks. Did not watch 2017. I think JJ Arcega-Whiteside is a very polarizing player in this class, and what's interesting is that a lot of polarizing players are freak athletes that don't show that much skill on tape, where JJ is 100% different. He shows an amazing amount of skill on tape. He just has a weird body size and shape and has some clear athletic problems on film, like change of direction and acceleration. He's a player that I don't see having very much upside, but I do think he will be productive in individual games throughout the year. If you could get him late in a rookie draft, I think he'd be worth it as an end-of-the-bench fill-in for an injured starter, but I am seeing him right now go in the second round, and I'm not comfortable paying that price for him. Say I got him in the back end of the third, then I'd feel good about it. Even the beginning of the third, there are so many good receivers in this class that are at least close, where I'm going to be pretty hard pressed to actually select him if I'm going for upside, which early in rookie drafts, I'm not. I want safe picks. Those picks are expensive at the beginning. First round picks are expensive. Second round picks, still pretty expensive. Third round picks, those are kind of throw-ins on trades. Trades for players that might have a brief run of production, but you can tell that situation is going to change later within a year or so. But he could end up being a solid possession receiver for a team if he cleans up his routes some more, gets a little more athletic after doing some pro-level conditioning and agility training. But we'll see. He's less of a projection than most of the other people in this tier, in my opinion, but I don't see the upside that a lot of the other ones offer. And based on where most of these guys are going to be going in rookie drafts, he probably won't be on any of my teams. Next up, we've got Mecole Hardman Jr. out of Georgia. He is 70.25 inches tall, 187 pounds, with 9-inch hands and a 71.625 reach. His height and weight are below average, his hand size is slightly below average, and his span is far below average. He's one of the youngest players in the class, coming in at 21.08 years old, and is a junior. He has a below average weight divided by height, a far below average span divided by height, and an average hand divided by height. Mecole did pretty well at the combine, running a 4.3340, which was way above average, a 36.5-inch vertical, which was average, a below average 119-inch broad jump, and an above average 17 reps on the bench. To the film. Against LSU. One play in, and he looks pretty fast. He should have sat down in the soft spot of the zone. That's slightly concerning because I like my guys to know what to do against zone coverage, and on that play he didn't. He doesn't false step, but he loads before he takes off. He did get deep on the safety, but it was overthrown by a shitty quarterback. Looks to have above average to elite acceleration, above average to elite long speed. He looks very fluid. I do wish he would have ran the agility drills at the combine. I'm not sure why he didn't, because that doesn't look to be an issue for him on the tape. Will block downfield, and he showed disappointment when he failed on the block. I like that it shows he cares about making the block. Even if he couldn't do it, with his height and weight, it's probably going to be difficult for him to do it sometimes. But I like that he showed disappointment. Didn't throttle down or make any fakes before cutting outside. Has work to do in the route running department, but the athleticism is definitely there. Ball was thrown behind him, the DB got physical with him, and he missed a contested catch. He seems pretty darn skinny to me. So he didn't make a contested catch, which you don't really expect him to do at his height and weight, but it's nice to see that he does. I mean, look at Dortch. And he actually wasn't as bad on the weight divided by height category as I thought he'd be. Did a good job sitting down in the soft spot of the zone, middle of the field, but he doesn't seem to have much of a sense of urgency most of the time. Earlier we were down on him a little because he didn't really know what to do. Now he shows that, yeah, I can sit down in the soft spot of the zone, but it is showing a little bit of inconsistency. Definitely a project with upside. He does hand catch, and he threatens defenders with his speed even when he's standing still. Clearly, people have seen his speed on tape, and the defenders are very nervous of him beating them with their speed. Similar to Alvin Kamara. Watch how defenders don't know what angle to take on him because he could go any direction at any point in time. Mecole gave the same issues to LSU DBs. Shows great natural athleticism and hands by bending to catch the ball and in one motion, still swiveling upfield, essentially a 270-degree turn. That was pretty nice. If you missed one of the earlier episodes where we were talking about DeMarcus Lodge, he had a nice 360-degree catch where he caught it behind him and turned completely around all in one motion. This was kind of the same. But instead of going the same direction, he actually bent upfield while making the catch. That is something most human beings cannot do. Showed great ability to beat the corner with speed in an off-press man, and a good job adjusting to the back shoulder ball. Next play, he dropped a hands catch, uncontested. This is where we see the inconsistency with a lot of these prospects. You're going to make a difficult catch against someone in better position than you, and you're still going to beat him with speed and adjust to the back shoulder throw, and then the next play, you're going to be wide open and drop it. Shows frustration when he messes up, which is a good sign. Earlier we talked about how him showing disappointment after a failed block was a good thing, and now we're saying showing frustration after he messes up is a good thing. It's a good thing because he knows he messes up. He doesn't need a coach to come tell him, you did this wrong. And it shows that he's holding himself accountable for his mistake, not blaming it on something else. Will not have the power to run through defenders or break tackles with power. I don't think a lot of us would expect that on a 5'10", 187-pound receiver, but it would be good to see. Doesn't show much creativity in his route, didn't hustle to the football. Those are two things I don't like to see, but he is clearly not a very advanced route runner. Hopefully that can change, but as with a lot of these people, we're projecting a little bit. His athleticism and just natural athleticism is pretty enticing to me. Against Alabama, doesn't look all that willing to block, but the guy he was going against is about twice the size and could eat him for lunch. He just dropped a shovel pass. Wow. Definitely has hands issues and issues with physicality and issues with contested catches. The physicality and contested catches are things that I'm not really expecting with his play style, but the hands issues is something I really don't like to see, which is why he's down here in this tier. If he could catch with how athletic he is and how good he could run routes, he'd be a lot higher. He's like a much more raw version of Paris Campbell. Nice hands catch. So I wanted to see more of him, so I went through his junior highlights. He might have elite speed and acceleration. I think the Combine confirmed that that's true. Between him, Dortch, and Marquise Brown, I'm not sure which one I like the most. Has a knack for setting defenders up and bursting to the outside all in one fluid motion while he's a ball carrier. So since he can do things like this with the ball in his hands, that's why I project him to learn how to run routes well at an NFL level. He's doing this naturally and instinctually. I just don't think he's really been trained in how to run routes. He lets the ball into his body too often. He has returning ability and can follow blocks in the open field. I still wanted to see some more Mecole, so I went to his sophomore highlights. Gets upfield in a hurry after the catch. One of my favorite things about him, no time wasted. That's one of the biggest things I like to see from any wide receiver or running back or pass catcher. You can't waste time, especially in the NFL. Some people understand that, some people don't. Again, watch Alvin Kamara when he catches a football. If he's running an out route, catches a ball, instantly upfield. I'm not saying Mecole Hardman is Alvin Kamara, but he does play in a similar way as a wide receiver. Showed awareness as a gunner to slow up before hitting the guy. Special teams is going to help him stick around in the league. That's probably going to put him over Hollywood Brown for me just on that one play. And in the end it did. Really does show good vision following his blockers as a returner. Another coverage of the ball at the proper moment. I just think he has good football IQ even though he can't run good routes yet. I definitely would like to see more hands catching. He has the tendency to let it into his body unnecessarily. He does have great awareness. He might be more athletic than Paris Campbell, and he might have more upside than even Dortch, but he does not have the hands of either of them. Nice hands catch, but he only got 1 foot in bounds. Well, that counts in college, but we're scouting for the NFL. So I definitely put a lot more importance on players who are already thinking NFL mentality and like to get 2 feet in bounds. Really is a good returner. First step is outstanding. What I mean by the first step is if you're standing still and you have to move one direction, how far and how quickly can you make that first step? It's one of the most important traits for a defensive end. And honestly, a lot of positions in football, a lot more than most people want to admit. But his first step is outstanding. I can see now why in the first game the LSU DBs were scared even though he was standing still, because when he goes, he goes. Shows great agility. It's not just speed and acceleration. He literally is above average to elite in all 3 areas, speed, acceleration, and agility. Watch out if he can figure out his fucking routes. If he can learn to run routes and be patient, the sky is the limit. Near elite burst, top end speed, agility, vision, and awareness. Showed the ability to make a contested catch. So clearly it's not a winning proposition for him, but he at least can do it from time to time. His natural change of direction is just unreal. Made another really great contested catch. Has just tremendous upside. Hand size might be a concern. Well, he did have 9-inch hands at the Combine, and that's pretty much the threshold I've seen in a few predictive analytics models. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I just think he needs to start using them instead of using his body. Elite body control. So look how many categories I rated him near elite or elite in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a lot. Really makes you wonder how Jake Fromm can't get the ball to him or Riley Ridley or Terry Godwin or Isaac Nwata very well. It's almost like Jake Fromm is super overrated or something. They even ran him in Wildcat to get him to the edge. Has a lower body strength and awareness to run through tackles that should tackle him, and has a nose for the end zone. If you can't tell, I've got a pretty big man crush on Mecole Hardman. He's not there yet. He does have a lot of issues as a pure receiver, but he has a lot of instinctual and athletic traits that simply cannot be coached. Like, he just does. I'll argue that against anyone who has a lick of knowledge about how to watch film correctly. And keep in mind, I'm saying all of these things while he's playing in the SEC. First as a sophomore, then as a junior. He just has some ridiculous body control and fluidity, just everything. I mean, look at his bench. 18 reps at 187 pounds. That's pretty outstanding. Most of the receivers in this class were 220-something pounds, didn't do 18 reps. Mecole Hardman is someone I'm going to be targeting heavily in my drafts. I'd be fine taking him at the end of round 2 for sure, maybe mid-round 2. I think there's enough receivers that are going to drop that I'm probably going to be able to get him in the 3rd round. But even if I don't get him, I'm probably going to wait a month and trade for him from whoever does draft him, because I just think the upside is that great. And I want to get him before any positive news starts to come out of OTAs about him, or rookie minicamp, whatever the hell it's called. The last wide receiver in Tier 2 is N'Keal Harry from Arizona State. He is 74.375 inches tall, or about 6 foot 2.5, 228 pounds, with 9.5 inch hands and a 78.25 inch wingspan. His weight is highly above average, his hand size is average, and his height and span are slightly above average. He's fairly young for this class at 21.32 years old, coming out as a junior. His weight divided by height is above average. His span divided by height and hand size divided by height are average. His 40 time was slightly below average at 4.53 seconds. He had an above average 38.5 inch vertical, an average 122 inch broad jump, and an above average 27 reps on the bench, highest at the combine. He did not run the 3-cone or the 20-yard shuttle. On to the film. Against Oregon. Looks bigger than Harmon by a lot. Well, we found at the combine that they're actually almost the exact same size. I think N'Keal is like a 1/4 of an inch taller and like 7 pounds heavier. Might have some agility issues, but looks very strong, and he turned out to be very strong. Didn't look willing to block, even though the ball was coming his way. You know, I like my receivers to be able to block. Just got stuck on press man. When you're that strong and you're getting stuck on press man, that is a huge technique issue and a huge red flag. Good balance, but doesn't look as fluid as Harmon. If you can't tell, I watched Harmon right before I watched N'Keal. Can high point, arms are long. Just dropped an easy out route right in his hands. No sense of urgency coming back on a back shoulder throw. Good route on the dig, but did not explode, which allowed the DB to close. He seems to have some issues tracking the ball deep, which is worrisome with someone of his frame. Average to above average acceleration, body catches a lot. You know I don't like body catches. You know I like separation and good route running. Doesn't seem to have true deep speed. Will have to win contested catches at the point of attack, but he does not seem to know how to box out right now. The combine confirmed that he doesn't have true deep speed. Average to above average body control. Horrible blocker. Does not separate with athleticism or routes. I will most likely be avoiding. We've talked about this multiple times before, but if you can't separate with athleticism or routes, that is a bad combination. Horrible hitch route, very slow, no technique, almost got picked off. Great double move on the out and up, showed the explosion and acceleration to get vertical, and made the contested catch through contact. His best route by far is the out and up. After watching the film, it honestly blew my mind that people still kept falling for it. It does show that maybe he'll be able to learn how to run routes, but a double move doesn't really show great route running, in my opinion. It's just a double move. That's relying on the defender to make a bad mistake instead of great route running, which only needs a tiny bit of off balance from the defender in order to get open. When he body catches, he drops it. Against Arizona. Bad release in off-man coverage, didn't threaten the DB either direction. Remember, off-man is where the defense is still in man-to-man coverage and lined up head up against the receiver, but instead of pressing him on the line of scrimmage, they're off about 6 yards. He didn't fake left or right at all, and that's something you still have to do, even though it might be a little counterintuitive as you're accelerating toward the defensive back, because you're trying to gain that little advantage by making him get off balance with his feet. When he does decide to block, he doesn't move his feet. A lot of your power comes from driving your feet as a blocker. A lot of people have an instinct where they want to anchor and keep their feet stationary, but all that does is allow the other guy to reset his hands and get under your center of gravity. Great out and up move again. Sloppy on most routes. Another easy drop, let it go right past his hands. He runs upright, and when he does decide to give effort blocking, he's usually holding 2 plays in a row. Completely gave up on a play. I think he's lazy. Will not be in my top tier. Against UTSA, wasn't ready for the ball out of the break. Made the first tackler miss, showed off okay to above average long speed for his size. We found out at 6'2", he really doesn't have above average long speed for his size. He has the same 40, essentially, as JJ Arcega-Whiteside, who's a much better route runner and technician at this point. I don't think he can separate with athleticism or routes, but he did show a willingness to block when the ball was coming his way, but for the first time. When it takes you halfway through game 3 before you actually try to block, like with high intensity, that's not how you get on the field in year 1. He's doing more blocking this game, but he's just pushing guys away instead of actually blocking them. This is another huge technique error and just honestly stupid mental error that a lot of people do, and I will never understand it. But when you block someone, you're trying to almost suck them into your body. You want to get your hands on their breastplate, grab and hold. There's holding on every play. The only time it's called holding is when your hands are outside of their chest plate. You can hold as much as you want on that chest plate. You grab that chest plate, you suck it into your body so they can't get space and get off and make the tackle. When you push them away, you're allowing them, you're making them get separation from you so that they can get off and go make the tackle. It's very stupid. He's not very good at shuffling side to side. Even when he does run a good route, he still body catches. He made an amazing play cutting back across the grain and the entire length of the field, but it's against UTSA, so I don't know. Utah. He looks more explosive, just made a great slant route against off-man coverage in the red zone, making more hands catches in this game, but he still lets it into his body. When he catches it in full stride, he does have good long speed, but nothing to write home about. I think we could all agree a 4.53 fits that description when we're talking about transitioning to the NFL. Cut back across the field again. Not sure if it's good field awareness or luck, but that's 2 of his 3 big plays are across the field cutbacks that probably won't be there in the NFL. Showed some good blocking after he got pissed. Did not watch 2017. I'm sure I sound like a hater with a lot of these top guys that I'm sure a lot of you are in love with, but to be honest, you're projecting things that don't exist on the tape. That's the nicest way I can say it. These big guys in this class, Hakeem Butler, N'Keal Harry, A.J. Brown, aren't as good as a lot of you guys say they are. I know I wouldn't touch any of them in the first round except for maybe A.J. Brown. You couldn't make me. It's my team. It's my choice. I make every dynasty draft pick with the intention of recouping my value on that pick within 1 year, but also with the intention to never trade away that player. So it's an intriguing mix of both short-term and long-term decision making. And N'Keal Harry, Hakeem Butler, A.J. Brown could totally be the best receiver in this class when it's all said and done. I don't think N'Keal or Hakeem Butler are going to have any meaningful impact year 1. They're just way too far away with the technical skills and football IQ. It's a borderline impossibility unless they learn a shit ton of technique over the next 5 months, which is a tall order. A.J. Brown maybe, but even then, he has his own issues that a lot of people seem to be overlooking. I get why people draft for upside, but you kind of have to say, what's their highest projected ceiling they could possibly become, and what's their lowest projected floor they could have. And these 3 big guys in this tier have a much lower floor than people want to admit. Right now, N'Keal Harry is not a good wide receiver. Fact. Hakeem Butler, not a good wide receiver. Fact. A.J. Brown, decent wide receiver. That's it. Anything you're seeing in their game, you're projecting things that aren't there. And it's possible I make this statement and I look foolish and they kill it year 1, but I doubt it. And in the first round, I'm looking for a 1-year contributor that I can sell for hopefully double the value, but ideally, never have to trade away. Next, we have a very interesting player in Preston Williams out of Colorado State. He is 76 inches tall, or 6'4", 211 pounds. Those were taken from his pro day, as he wasn't invited to the combine for a domestic violence incident with his girlfriend back in the day. I don't have a hand size, and I don't have a span for him. He's one of the younger receivers in the class, slightly above average at 22.05 years old, coming out as a redshirt junior, and he has an average weight divided by height. I do not know about the span and hand size. At his pro day, he ran a 4.53 40, which would have been average for the class, a 31.5-inch vertical, which would have been below average, and a 116-inch broad jump, which would have been really below average. I didn't see a 3-cone or 20-yard shuttle posted, and as we know, this adds to the uncertainty. 1, he didn't even participate at the combine due to those issues. 2, we don't have his hand size or wingspan, and 3, we have no agility numbers. But on film, he's an intriguing player. I actually have since moved him down into my tier 3 because of all these uncertain things that we have surrounding him. Against Arkansas, he loads on his release instead of exploding off the line. He seems to stop blocking pretty early in the play. 3 catches with his hands, 2 or 3 bubble screens, and 1 shallow cross. Just ran a semicircle out route. Rounding it doesn't begin to describe it. Displays quick feet and stutters on his release, but failed to adjust to the poorly thrown ball, resulting in an interception. Looks to have pretty good acceleration and long speed, probably more acceleration than long speed. That would make sense with a 4.53, still pretty good, but it's good to know that he's not a player that relies on his long speed, but his acceleration. Doesn't seem to adjust well to poorly thrown balls, but there will be plenty of chances to see that as the quarterback is god-awful. Great hand swipe at the line on a hard jam press. He had the DB stacked and kept him in his back pocket, but then he dropped a fairly easy catch on contact with the ground. Keeping the DB stacked and in your back pocket is all we're really talking about with that whole shielding the defender from the ball with your body. It's the same principle. You just have to do it for longer if the quarterback hasn't realized that you're open yet. I don't like to see people that drop the ball when they hit the ground because that's just showing that you weren't anticipating that contact. I don't think he runs good routes, and for how big he is, I'm surprised at how many non-high point contested catches he's missing right now. I do think he will test pretty well. He actually didn't, which is kind of surprising, but the 40 was okay. His jumps weren't very good, and we have no idea about his agility numbers. I think he has more straight line acceleration than he does long speed, and I think he has more long speed than he does agility. Kind of concerning when he's running a middle of the pack 40 and we don't have any agility numbers, and we say that his long speed is better than his agility. Rounded a short out. Just got stuck and pretty much pushed out of bounds trying to get vertical, but he did try to work back inside a little, just wasn't successful. He didn't show the willingness to block when he realized the ball was coming his way. He kind of takes too long of a step when he's trying to juke left and right while pushing vertically. I think that's an agility issue showing up. Doesn't seem like he's all too interested in blocking. He's really not willing to put an effort to go make a block. He did just run a nice slant up, square in, and stop short of the defender, which was nice to see the awareness. So let's go through this step by step. He ran a slant, which is 3 steps vertically, then a 45-degree angle in for 1 step. Then he broke that to a full 90 degrees in on an in route, but he stopped before reaching the next linebacker in the zone coverage, so essentially the soft spot of the zone that we've talked about a lot, and that's great awareness. A lot of players, if they're already running a complicated route, might not stop before that next defender because they're just trying to run their route, if that makes any sense. On the touchdown, there was a completely blown coverage, but he did show sideline awareness by triple tapping the foot. Can make contested hands catches over the top of a defender. Did a good job pulling the ball away from the defender after the catch. I see a lot of receivers do this. They think they've made the catch, but then they don't continue to shield the ball with their body from the defender, and they let them get back in on the play. He doesn't do that. He keeps it away from them, showing good football IQ. Was pretty much contested the whole route and still made a pretty amazing tip catch in the end zone. Still takes a few too many steps on the in route, but it's much more square than his out route. He has work to do on his route running, but I think the athleticism is adequate. Needs to learn how to chop the arm away. Press man seems to cause him issues. Can definitely go up and get the ball. This is where the film and the vertical don't match. He is 6'4", and a 31.5-inch vertical isn't horrible for 6'4", but on film it looks like he is jumping way higher than that. Press man definitely seems to give him troubles. Just completely slipped and fell down on a single arm jab, but he did get back up quickly. We don't like to see one arm knock down a 6'4", 210-pound receiver that effectively. The good thing is that he got back up fast. Why do you ask? Because you can't make a play if you're on the ground. He at least realizes internally and mentally that he needs to get back up. There's a lot of people who, when they're knocked down, I'm just going to lay here on the field for a bit and take a breather. At least he got back up. Great catch, sliding and coming back to the football on a deep inside over. I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be an in, but he rounds his routes so I can't tell. Regardless, it was a great adjustment to the football to keep it off of the ground. He runs a nice slant route. Against Florida, he does consistently hands catch. Just had another nice back shoulder contested catch, although the corner was super short. He consistently shows the ability to dive low to catch balls. Just ran his best in-route / hitch so far with chopping and stuttering the feet in order to decelerate and turn quickly back towards the ball. He does seem to have the finesse on his releases, but I haven't seen much physicality. Just ran his best quick out route so far, planted at nearly 90 degrees while stuttering the feet to decelerate. Suspect vision and tackle breaking ability in the open field. Lazy blocker. Can immediately tell if he's blocking or running a route. Once again rounded his out route, did not make anyone miss. Ran a good out route but could not get separation, was knocked down again. We don't like to see that he's been knocked down 2 or 3 times so far. Good avoid and release to the outside. The whole offensive line and quarterback are awful. I think he has balance issues, just completely fell down while trying to block. Did a good job on the outside release and decelerating on the hitch, but he could have come back to the ball harder and hands caught instead of body caught. However, that's the first time he's body caught. I don't think he'll be running any reverses in the NFL. Kind of reminds me of Tajai Sharp. Definitely has issues when DBs are physical with him, which is slightly concerning to me considering the physicality of most NFL defensive backs. Showed nice physicality breaking a tackle after running a pretty technically sound out, up, out, short concept. So that means he took a step up field, 90 degrees out, 90 degrees up, 90 degrees out, all in that many steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, just to get the defensive back worried about that vertical route. He literally does not understand how to block, has no concept. He runs tall. That might be one of the problems with his routes. He can't sink his hips or he doesn't know how to. Just got open deep on Florida's secondary on an in-up or an in-and-go. He might be scared of contact. He is so much better at in routes than out routes. I don't understand it. Maybe he just has a bad coach. Does not have elite speed. I think the 40 time confirmed that. Doesn't seem to have physical moves to get off the man and press. Isn't going to be a yards after catch guy. Air Force. I don't think he's very agile. Not doing the agility drills at your pro day when you already missed the combine is a pretty big indicator. Honestly, reading back my notes, I'm probably going to have him even lower. Horrible fake on the reverse. He's either really lazy or hurt during this game. He finally blocked someone. Showed great sideline awareness, but it was only 1 foot. He tried to body catch and dropped it. Nice plant step on a fake post corner. Plant step is where you have one hard step instead of decelerating with multiple feet chops before the break of your route. So he faked the post for a couple steps and then planted hard for the corner. Almost dropped an easy ball, but he did double clutch catch it. Showed ability to catch ball at knees and still get feet in bounds. Ball was outside and below the shin, his best catch yet. Good push off without getting called, and great hands catch, ball tracking without breaking stride. So you're going to think that pushing off as the offensive receiver should be pass interference, but most of the time it's never called. We'll see how these new rule changes affect that, but they almost always give the benefit of the doubt to the offensive player. Showed some hard hands and short arms. His hands are better when he reacts than when he has time to think about it. He's such a lazy and bad blocker, it's annoying. Against Hawaii, couldn't separate from the hold at the top of the route on an in route. Definitely lacks physicality. I'm probably going to have him fairly low. Still think he's pretty strong. Look at his bench press at the combine. Well, he didn't go to the combine, so I really can't do that now, can I? He knows how to hands catch, but it's going to take him time to develop. He's definitely fast enough for the NFL. Great catch, but he probably should have sat that down faster because he had to realize how wide open he was. Their quarterback sucks. What I mean by sitting that down faster is he was in between the zone coverage level of the linebackers and where the safeties are, probably in cover 3 or wide cover 2. Wide cover 2 means the safeties are wider than normal. And he kept going upfield instead of just sitting in the open area of the field and waiting for a spot pass. Just had a sneaky nice block. Maybe he is a little strong. He just needs to learn how to use it. It'll take him like a year to get bigger. But if he can get more physical, he would be a Kenny Galladay clone outside of the route running. Just dropped a body catch through contact. He should have caught that one. Didn't have his eyes on the ball. It was a poorly thrown ball, but he should have been able to catch it. His lack of physicality right now makes him miss plays that I feel he should make. There's definite upside here, but it's going to take a while. Be patient. He can break some tackles. Nice display of agility and vision and knowing how to make guys miss. Does a good job of pushing off at the right instant to secure the catch. He does have good hands and a great catch radius, so he could be a good touchdown guy. Great route on the up to post and great catch. I think he can jump. He really didn't have a good vertical, but as I've said before, some people just aren't good at testing. It's just a fact of life you need to get over. But the up to the post, hopefully we know what that means. He looks like he's running a fly route, kind of cheating a little to the outside, and then he breaks it off at one hard plant on a post. He's good at the back shoulder. The quarterback just sucks. Aaron Rodgers would love him. I'm a lot higher on Preston Williams on film than I am him as a human and prospect, mainly because I don't have the certainty of knowing his agility times, not even at his pro day. I don't have any times from him at the combine. I don't know his hand size, and I don't know his wingspan. I know that he's been in trouble with the law for stalking an ex-girlfriend, so there are a lot of red flags with him. He's pretty raw in a lot of areas, but 6'4", 211 with his speed and hands does not grow on trees. I think he is just as good at hands as Miles Boykin. Clearly isn't as good in the jumps. He's someone that I do want on my team. I had to move him down into my tier 3 after making my announcement on this podcast that he's in my tier 2 based on the amount of uncertainty. But he's such a hard person to rank. He really is. He's got upside. It's gonna take him a while. There's a good chance that he reoffends in some way because I've seen domestic violence doesn't seem to be a very positive indicator for success at the NFL level, so we'll see. But clearly I liked his physical attributes in film good enough, even with all the flaws that I wrote down in my notes, to keep him up in that tier 2. He's someone where draft capital is going to say a lot. Talent-wise, I think he should probably be a 3rd round pick, 4th round pick, but if he goes in the 6th or 7th, and maybe is even undrafted, he's someone I'm going to be staying away from in rookie drafts. That's all for today's episode. Next time we're going to be going through the second half of my tier 2 wide receivers. As always, the only way I make money is if you go to my Patreon at patreon.com/365_dynasty. And if you pledge $5, you're going to get access to all of my ranks, both pre-draft and post-draft, my projected order for how actual rookie drafts and dynasty leagues are going to pan out, and where I would draft people if I was doing a dynasty draft against a copy of myself, if that makes any sense. And the difference between those two are going to show you where in your drafts you're most likely to get the player that's still in a high enough tier to return a decent probability of success. This year, more than any year I've ever played, the expert quote-unquote consensus is horribly wrong. No other way to say it. I don't care if I sound cocky or overly confident. The consensus right now pre-draft is wrong as fuck. Not even close. I even started scouting running backs today, and they're super wrong on the running backs too. Don't think it's a very good class for running backs if you think Josh Jacobs and David Montgomery are 1 and 2. I don't know what to tell you if that's what you're going to go on and waste a first-round draft pick on them. But anyways, hit me up on Twitter. Let me know what I can change. Let me know the timestamp of the episode. Go to the website, dynasty-365.com. There you'll find the links to my live streams, all of my social media accounts. And next time we're going to be going over my tier 1 wide receivers. Some of you have probably already figured out who they are, but we'll be going over in alphabetical order: Andy Isabella, DK Metcalf, Kelvin Harmon, Paris Campbell, and Riley Ridley. Yes, Riley Ridley, the guy that's going to go in 3rd round of rookie drafts. That guy, tier 1. Anyways, you've been listening to Dynasty 365, where there is no off season.
So much trouble, it's not my fault, all this I also lose my friends, I lost my baby that was looking crack, only today want to change. He wanted us on the cougar tribal like to feel. Like to sleep with it for someone to come in and kill you. The final thing is that now we're not friends of anything. Cause they gonna kill anyone that feels so powerful. They trip by you every you skin up, everything is confusing. You will be good, but you will be more. You will be good, but you will be more.